All right, Mercy, we've got Chris Pratt in a chair for 90 minutes and he's begging you for mercy. Yeah, yeah, why won't you release him? Yeah, yeah. I'll just let myself out. So Mercy is the latest thriller starring Chris Pratt as a detective police officer who has actually set up an AI court system which is entrusted with a new way of putting criminals on trial and sentencing them to court in an impartial manner. This is meant to take some of the stress off the legal system and make sure that the correct criminals are being put away in a manner which doesn't concern human involvement. And the idea of this system is that the criminal sits in the chair, they're given 90 minutes to prove themselves to have reasonable doubt that they committed a crime, and that is done by a percentage falling below 92%. And Chris Pratt has found himself in this chair in a system which he created against an AI judge for the murder of his wife, and he has to prove his innocence within reasonable doubt, falling below 92% within 90 minutes time, or else he will be sentenced to execution. And the movie follows Chris Pratt as he is facing this system in this judge in the jury seat as he is on trial throughout the film. And I'll say, for starters, I found this film to be pretty entertaining. I don't feel like this film really suffered from the fact that Chris Pratt is in this chair for most of the time. I know that it really could have felt stale, being just really showing Chris Pratt versus this AI judge for 90 minutes. Essentially how Chris Pratt will prove his innocence is by going through all of these different files, videos, voice memos, calls on this cloud that everyone throughout the city is connected to. And it's up to us as an audience and Chris to try to piece together what has happened and why he is in this room today. He doesn't remember what's happened, so there's a bit of a mystery lingering there as to what could have gone down. So it's up to him to try to prove his innocence using all of these files on this cloud. And I think that the film did do a good job of actually being entertaining and did throw some twists and turns and good curveballs along the way, which I personally appreciated. I don't think that the film really overstayed its welcome and clocking in at only around 100 minutes. I definitely feel like it went for the right amount of time, and I did actually like the aspect that it does actually time and tick down in the corner how long Chris has been on trial for. It's more or less accurate to how long he's actually left in the movie as well. So you do kind of feel that urgency and real-time sort of aspect as an audience member watching Chris be on trial, and then you have the timer ticking down until the end of the film, until the end of his trial. It does make it feel a little more realistic. Granted, the timer's not 100% accurate all the time. It does kind of linger a little bit faster than it would in real time for the audience. However, it does definitely add a sense of urgency and realism, the fact that it's counting down on screen with us watching Chris in real time, which I did appreciate. And I'll say as well that I do really appreciate the way that the film actually twisted and turned and subvert my expectations. The film does pay off quite a lot of things set up earlier in the film, which I appreciated as an audience member. I was taking notice of that, which I liked, and I feel like this film could have been really straightforward from start to end. It could have gone the exact way which you think it was going to go, and I did actually really appreciate the character study of Chris's character and how that culminated in the end and how he actually deals with this system in the end. I thought that was a really good piece of writing. It's not going to be for everyone, and I know it's not going to be for everyone based on what I've heard, but it worked well for me. It subverted my expectations in a positive way, which drew on information we got earlier in the film, and I liked the way that the film ended. I feel like it was a much more interesting ending than what they could have gone for, and I think that they made a good decision in ending it the way they did, which helped Chris's character development as a character and also brought back elements that we had seen prior. I think my main complaint with the film is probably the supporting cast is pretty weak, if I'm being honest. As I said, I think that the twist and turns that the movie goes through is actually more interesting than the mystery itself, unraveling what happened on that day and why Chris is actually in that room. I don't think that's as interesting as the way that the film kind of pivots. I think that was more interesting than the actual core central mystery of the film. However, I feel like the mystery of the film could have been better had the supporting characters been stronger, been more well written, and been, I think, portrayed a little bit better by the actors and actresses on screen. I did feel a little weak in the way that the characters came off. Could have definitely led credence to the mystery if they were portrayed a bit stronger. Don't think they were written the best. But as I said, I think that the movie ends itself in a way that the mystery at the end of the day isn't as important as the way that the movie actually comes together. So I'm willing to give it a little bit of a pass, but at the end of the day, ultimately it is a mystery thriller, so the actual mystery being predictable and not as engaging as what it could have been, it's definitely a negative of the movie and the one that I'm probably taking out most. But the movie doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't do anything offensive. It's probably more of a mid movie. It's one of those ones where if it comes on streaming, I'd recommend giving it a watch. Chris Pratt is fine. He's not doing anything spectacular, of course. He's in a chair with an AI judge for this movie, so it's not going to do anything crazy there with him as an actor, and we've seen Chris Pratt plenty of times before, and this is definitely not a performance of a lifetime or anything like that. As I said, I like the way the movie ends. I think the mystery could have been a bit better, supporting characters a bit better. However, it was interesting seeing this thing unravel. It did very well not overstay its welcome at only 100 minutes. I think that it definitely was clever the way that it didn't overstay, and as an audience member, I didn't feel bored watching this movie through, so I've got to give it some credit for that. But overall though, it's not a movie that you'd really rewatch. It's not really going to do heaps. The box office so far has been pretty poor for it, understandably so. I think it's a cool concept. I do also like the fact how it does kind of actually have a bit of a negative take on AI and the AI system, so I do actually quite like that coming out of the movie, but ultimately the movie's not doing heaps for me. But it was an engaging thriller, so I guess it did do its job, and it was a fun roller coaster ride for the time that I was on it. So I've got to give it a 6.5 out of 10 for that. If it comes on streaming, give it a watch, see what you think. But yeah, nothing crazy coming out of this movie. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate it. As I said, more reviews coming this year. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe for some more reviews, and I'll see you next time. You have a good day.